All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher, joined as always by the whale capper, Drew Dinsick. We are all soccer today. No NBA, no NFL, just World Cup, which starts later this week. We're very excited to welcome in a special guest, Eric Alvarez, who's going to help us break down some optimism, reasons for optimism with Team USA in Qatar, also handicap some of the favorites, Brazil, Argentina, France, England. Funnily enough, producer Adam did not include Australia in the rundown. I thought we were going to do a full segment on the Australians and their chances of getting out of the group, but apparently not. The Socceroos, yeah. We're not quite the team of Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka that we were back in 2002, 2006, but so be it. Let's bring in Eric. And Eric, great to have you here. Good to see you kitted up as well.
Yeah.
Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Team USA. What should we know about Team USA? And do you like their chances of getting out of the group? They're plus 550 and obviously have to contend with England.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. First of all, what do you mean just soccer today? We get to talk about soccer today. This is awesome.
Finally.
I'm all in. I'm all in soccer. Guys, this should be a soccer show 100% of the time. It was up to me.
This is huge. This is huge. Okay, so like Team USA, okay? I like their chances of getting out of the group, not so much winning the group, okay? So they have one of the youngest, I think it's the youngest team in the tournament, but in my opinion, that's kind of a double-edged sword, okay? Because they don't have the experience. They haven't been there before, which could be, seen as a bad thing. I personally see it as a good thing. All right. These are young players. A lot of these guys were in middle school, right? The last time the US was in the World Cup. So they don't have the pressure of an entire nation resting on their shoulders. They're just going to get out there and do what they do, what they've been doing their whole lives. Personally, they have a shot of getting out. They're going to have to get through England, though. Okay, guys, number 5 in the entire world. All of these guys are just studs on all of their clubs. And then they're going to have to get through Wales as well. Now, Wales, in and of itself, is not a world power, okay? But they have Gareth Bale, one of the best players in the entire world. He's capable of scoring 2-3 goals just on his own. So I think they're going to get a win against Iran. But yeah, honestly, I was at the game in '98 when the U.S. played Iran, and I didn't think they were going to lose that game, and they did. So anything can happen. I think they have a good chance, though, of getting out of the group.
I like the way that you framed sort of the overall vibe around the team, because it reminds me a lot of, like, particularly other international sports like tennis. You have a young tennis player who bursts onto the scene. It's like they don't really know that it's supposed to be hard. They don't know that they're supposed to be under pressure. So the playing without pressure does tend to bring out some of the best performances, particularly against potentially an England team, which is still looking to be kind of dealing with some of the repercussions of losing that Euro final last year. They have been wildly out of form. Obviously, all of those players kind of involved in Premier League, which is a grind in and of itself. So I'm looking at this Group B as pretty flat. I think Iran may be a little bit underrated, but considering what's going on with that squad and just their ability to practice and find some cohesion with everything that's going on in their country, I do think that the USA, if they can win a coin flip against Wales in their first head-to-head here, this is a team that can emerge from the group. Am I being a little bit too optimistic that they can get out of the group? And at what point does the pressure start to set in for a young team like this in the knockout round? Can they pull off the impossible and beat a team like the Netherlands? Let's say they qualify second and face the Group A winner. What do you think?
So this is where it gets super, super interesting. And this is why we all love the World Cup. Okay, so let's say they do manage to get out of the group, which we're hoping that they do. Okay, so they're going to end up facing probably the Netherlands if they qualify second place at a Group B. Now, the Netherlands is another favorite to go really far in this tournament. If they end up drawing the Netherlands in the second round, it's going to be extremely, extremely hard, especially let's say they get a tie against England and manage to struggle, eke out a win against Wales. Okay, it's really hard for me to imagine that they're going to go from struggling in this group to immediately turning it around and beating the Netherlands. I mean, that seems like a hard kind of a turnaround in a matter of days. Okay, but if they end up drawing Senegal, okay, Senegal and Netherlands likely going to get out of Group A. Senegal is in and of itself, again, the team is not a world power, but they have the number 2 player in the entire world. Okay, his name is Sadio Mane, and he's done great things for Liverpool, his new club in Germany as well. He's been instrumental for that country. But here's the thing that everyone who's watching needs to keep an eye on. He has a slight injury and he's expected to miss a couple of games. Okay, so if Mane is in the roster and they end up drawing the USA is going to have a really tough time containing the number 2 player in the entire world. If he's still injured and Mane is not in the roster, that is when the US can capitalize. They can make it all the way to the quarterfinals.
Wow, I like it. Yeah, I think with the US, it's all going to come down to that game against Wales, who I think Wales on paper, the names look perhaps a little bit better than their current reality, where Gareth Bale, who everyone thinks of as the guy who wins Champions League finals, as the guy who destroys Maicon in Champions League ties as well 10 years ago. But I mean, Gareth Bale, who, yes, had that incredible goal for LAFC to send it to penalties in the MLS Cup final against Philadelphia. He also, I can't remember the last time that guy's played 90 minutes, and he's going to have to play 90 minutes in these games. And also Aaron Ramsey, who, as an Arsenal fan, I have complicated feelings about. He's not the guy that he used to be either, after a pretty rough stint at Juventus. So I think if the USA, if they can win that game against Wales, and I think they're in the box seat to get out of the group, which is now they're minus 105. So basically a coin flip to get out of the group. But the concerns I would have is that losing Miles Robinson out of defense, that hurts. Having Jesus Ferreira as your striker, which in a group with Harry Kane as another striker, is a questionable. It's not an area of strength, but certainly with their youth, with Christian Pulisic, with the talent that they have, I think that they should be able to get out of the group. It's just that game against Wales is going to be key. All right, let's talk some World Cup favourites, but first, download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's talk about some World Cup favorites. Let's start at the top with Brazil, who are the favorites, as they often are. A lot of pressure after a pretty underwhelming 2018 performance, and we know what happened in 2014 with that famous 7-1 against Germany. Eric, do you think that Brazil should be the favorites for this tournament?
Yeah, I think they should be the favorites. It's kind of hard to not, go for Brazil each and every time. What happens is we end up looking back and saying like, oh, well, they didn't do that well because they didn't, make it to the semifinals or the finals. But this country, this nation has had a steady stream of superstars. Even if you don't know their names, this is how their names become household names is, people watch the World Cup. There's this young kid from, Brazil who's playing in Brazil still that you might not have heard of. You're gonna know his name by the end of this tournament. So it's just kind of really hard to count them out for making it at least into the semifinals.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess this is probably the 5th or 6th consecutive World Cup where Brazil is going off as the favorite, and they haven't won in 20 years. I don't know that they really feel a lot of pressure in that, even though they are always the best because they win all of their games outside of World Cup competition anyway. But Argentina sitting at 550 is interesting to me because I have very, very narrow distinction between those teams when I do my numbers. Argentina, obviously, just in general has some name brand power with the likes of Leonardo Messi potentially in his final World Cup trying to finally bring home the hardware to Argentina, team that's coming off of an impressive run in South America in the last year. Do you think that the gap between Brazil and Argentina is as wide as the market makes it right now, or is this a coin flip between these two?
Honestly, I feel like and again, you guys are the numbers guys. All right. I go on what I see. I'm a fan, and I've been following this game for a long time. And there is just something about this storyline. Okay. Of Leo Messi. He's come close. He hasn't gotten it done. I actually favor Argentina more so than I do Brazil, just because of that, because Leo has got something to prove. All right. And he's had this chip on his shoulder his entire life. Having grown up under the shadow of Diego Maradona. What's interesting about Argentina is they don't have a lot of those household names as well. But if you've watched them play, the way that they play is they have a good supporting cast, okay? And it frees up in the central midfield. It frees up Messi to do what he does best, which is create. And you've got the other central midfielders that are basically cleaning up after him. They're winning back the balls and they're giving them to him and saying, hey, try not to worry as much about doing too much. We're going to get you the ball and then you do what you do. It's been they've been on a really good run. And I think there are big things in store for Argentina.
Yeah, the problem with Argentina is there's a good chance they're going to have to play Australia in the round of 16. And let me tell you, Lionel Messi doesn't want any part of that matchup against Australia. But I'm with you. I think that certainly just the catharsis of Messi winning the Copa America and getting that big trophy on his resume, I think that certainly gives a good vibe to this team. I think that they're very strong in defense. Their midfield now, particularly with DePaul and Paredes, is, I think, more cohesive than it's been previously. I think as well in past years, it was, give the ball to Messi and watch him go to work, and then let's hope that he does something. I think now with Lautaro Martinez up front and the form that he's been in the past couple of years, taking Inter to the Serie A title. So I think that there is a lot there. I would still probably give Brazil the slight edge just because of just the sheer depth of talent. I mean, I think that like Vinicius Jr. is on Brazil. Like no one talks about Vinicius Jr. He scored the winning goal in a Champions League final, and he was maybe the second best player in La Liga behind his teammate Karim Benzema. And that's a nice segue into Karim Benzema and France, who are the defending champions. They're not the favorites in the tournament. They're behind Brazil and Argentina. Do you think that's right, Eric? Do you think that they shouldn't be in that top two, or are there enough question marks, particularly with these injuries to Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante, who are not going to feature, that they are kind of the top of tier two?
So again, just as far as the numbers go, it's kind of hard for me to say. I don't follow numbers as closely as you guys, but I think France, for me, it's going to be a toss-up between Argentina and France. All right, their attack is just out of this world. You mentioned Benzema won the Ballon d'Or. He's the best player in the world. Voted into that role. You've got Kylian Mbappe. You've got Giroud all in the attack. So from an attacking standpoint, they have skill, they have strength, they have speed. And all of these teams have those things, but we're talking about at an elite level, even among the world's best players, these guys stand out. They're going to score a lot of goals. So every team that they face is going to have to figure out a way to either park the bus in front of the goal and just hope for the best, or they're just going to have to go all out on the counterattack. And that is a very dangerous place to be when you're facing off against the best player in the world and arguably some of the rest of the top 10 in the world. It's going to be tough.
That makes total sense. And I think the injury bug biting France, particularly in the midfield, could rear its head and kind of keep them from reaching their potential. Do you put any stock in sort of the World Cup reigning champ curse? It's been a long just for context, if you don't know what I'm talking about. The champion has not made it out of group like 4 or 5 World Cups in a row, which seems impossible. But maybe it's just the pressure, or the ball has to bounce your way to win in the first place. But it's been a long time since we saw anyone really kind of put up a meaningful title defense.
It's really interesting you said that. I hadn't considered that honestly until just now. I think, there's a lot about the World Cup that is just like inexplicable somehow. It's almost like March Madness. You don't know what's going to happen. But I would find it really hard to believe that France would not at least make it into the knockout stage. That seems like very, very unlikely. But unlikely things happen all the time.
I think with France, I think back to 2002, the last time they were defending world champs, coming off winning in France in '98, and then I think did they lose 1-0 or draw to Senegal in the first game and then didn't get out of the group from there. So they definitely have some precedent. And I think that the concern with France would be, one, Pogba and Kante being out is a killer. And now their midfield duo is Tchouaméni and Rabiot, who haven't really ever played together, which isn't ideal. And then also, I think people forget, Karim Benzema wasn't in the team in 2018. He wasn't a part of that. They need to establish new chemistry with him. I think that Karim Benzema is 17 tiers above Olivier Giroud as a player, clearly. But I think that Giroud maybe, I can't say he's better for the team than Benzema, but I think structurally there was something there with Giroud playing there, Mbappe and Griezmann playing off of him. Now there's a lot of mouths to feed, but still you'd think that the talent will win out. let's jump to England, France's fierce rivals as always. A lot of pressure on them to win the World Cup. As Drew said, they're coming off that gut-wrenching loss in the final of the Euros against Italy. Do you think they're a chance, Eric, to win their first World Cup since 1966?
There's always a chance with England, but there's an even bigger chance that they're going to find a way to break all of their fans' hearts the way they always do. Now, here's where I didn't put a lot of stock when you asked me about the defending champion curse, but for some reason, I do put a lot of stock in just the England heartbreak curse, because it just happens every single time. And it's so funny. It's like every 4 years, the entire nation says, okay, this is our year. But look, we have all of these guys that play in the EPL. Of course, we're going to win. And then it just doesn't happen. They got a lot of talent, but they also have kind of the opposite of the United States. The players on the U.S. don't have that pressure because they haven't been there before. The players for England are, people all over the world watch the EPL. They have extremely high expectations. And that kind of pressure, I think they're going to get through the group stages. I think they're going to struggle probably in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, there's a lot to not like about England among sort of the team among the teams that are expected to be title contending. You look at the way that they performed since the Euro; it has been bad. A home and away loss to Hungary. Just a lot of pressure on Southgate in general about his, what he wants to do with the team in terms of style of play. His, just in general seems to have a lot of loyalty to some guys who may be over the hill and aren't exactly deserving the time and the shine that they're getting right now. So I can see if, again, this is wild, but a lot of sort of the round one of play, like if they're unimpressive in what should be a decisive win against Iran. Like if that's even if that's a draw and they get a point out of it, just the media at home kind of turning up the heat on Southgate is going to be almost a guarantee. How about any other kind of general teams that you think are a little bit overrated? Teams that people would expect to see in sort of the quarterfinals, semifinals that you think may not materialize.
Yeah, just for me, it's Belgium, okay, and a similar sort of a situation. They for generations were just kind of this average, maybe they qualify, but they don't really do all that well in the tournaments. They don't make a big run. And I think a lot of that comes down to pressure. I think they're ranked second. The ranking escapes me, but they're ranked really, really high. So this country is a small country. It's situated right in the middle of soccer greatness in Central Europe. Okay. And so they finally reached this point where like, hey, we're kind of the favorites. What are we going to do with it? So similar to England, they have a ton of talent, extremely high expectations, because this in theory should be their year. It should be their tournament. And just for some reason, this is really more of a gut thing than anything else. I feel like one of the teams that's going to underperform, and there's always several actually, is going to be Belgium.
Yep. No, I'm with you there, Eric. And you are right. They are number 2 in the FIFA World Rankings at the moment, Belgium. And I just think that, you look at the names on paper and like Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, like those guys aren't nearly what they were, 3-4 years ago. And now the team is largely like it's Thibaut Courtois, who's maybe the best goalkeeper in the world, at least in the top 5, certainly. Then it's Kevin De Bruyne, who is arguably the best player in the world, certainly in that discussion. But outside of those two, you're counting on fitness from Hazard and form from Lukaku. They've both been banged up. And then also like their defense, names like Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld, they look like good names, and people think of the glory days at Tottenham with those two. Like those guys are a lot older now. They're playing in the Belgian league. Like they're not playing in the Premier League fighting for Champions League spots anymore. So I'm with you on the Belgium skepticism, and their odds have really have drifted a ton. It looks like we have a quick comment on England from a viewer. England is that kid. England is that kid that comes in third in a regional spelling bee and thinks they're a genius. Wow. Morton, really kind of lighting in to the 3 Lions. I like it, but I do not believe in Gareth Southgate. And as someone who bet on England to win the Euros, I was not happy with how Gareth Southgate managed that final against Italy. He really seemed like he just crawled into a ball and just hoped for the best in that second half. But Eric, let's close out by getting a prediction from you on who faces off in the final and who ultimately wins the World Cup.
Oh gosh, I need to check the tree, because now that you ask, I'm kind of forgetting. Like, are they going to face each other beforehand,
I know that's always a tricky thing.
Actually, I'll set this up a little bit for you then.
Okay.
We've talked about it on the show so far. The teams that are like bona fide, believe in them, like they're scary, they're going to be there at the end. They're all going to fall in the top half because they're going to win their groups. That's Argentina's going to be on the top. Brazil's going to be on the top. Netherlands is going to be on the top. And then whoever wins between Spain and Germany is going to be up there. So that is going to be an absolute dogfight. Only one of those teams emerges to the final. And then I really think that opens the door for a dark horse to come out of the bottom because that's where all your weaker favorites are. England's down there. France is down there. Belgium is down there. And then whoever wins between Uruguay and Portugal. So it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of a lopsided draw when we finally see it, I think.
Okay. So I guess with that in mind, France is going to make it to the final. Did you say Argentina is on the other side? Is that
Argentina
is that right?
and Brazil are going to be on the top?
Okay. I think it's going to be Argentina, France, and there's so many moving parts. I didn't follow the tree all the way to the end. So let's just say Argentina, France in the final. I got to pick Argentina. I think Leo Messi has that magic, and there's never been a better time for him to, cap that story with a World Cup win.
Very good. Drew, who have you got winning?
I don't have a winner. I have value for you. I'm coming after, in this market at these prices, I'm coming after Germany. I think Germany is underpriced. I like their youth. I like their coach. I think that's a nice squad. And I'm coming after Uruguay. I think Uruguay is a dark horse to win Group H. And as I mentioned, the bottom half of the draw, I think, is weak, is vulnerable. Either you're going to have a lot of vulnerable winners, out of the elite on the bottom that are, you could knock out on your way, or you're going to have chaos, which is, second and third bananas coming out of those groups as winners. And you could just have a weak, just general bottom half. And so Uruguay is a little bit of a slow starting team, which has me somewhat concerned, just kind of the way that their group is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm hopeful that they can win Group H. And if they do, then that sets them up for just an absolute beauty of a draw.
Yep, I like that. I'm going to take Spain at plus 800. I know they're in a tough group with Germany, but I thought that they dominated that semi-final against Italy in the Euros. They should have been in the finals. They should have won the Euros. You got a lot of youth, a lot of talent. I believe in Pedri and Gavi. And even if they don't win the group with Germany, then they probably play Belgium, who are beatable in the round of 16. So I'm riding with the Spaniards. Eric, thank you for joining us. Before we let you go, can you tell us more about your work with my new favorite futbolista?
I'm so glad you asked. I wasn't prepared for this question. We're actually it's on behind me. So thanks for asking. Yeah. So this is it's a bilingual podcast. My new favorite futbolista with LX News and a partnership with Telemundo. So we also have the Spanish side, Mi Mundialista Favorito. And it's what I love about it. It's we spent a lot of time and had a lot of fun talking about what actually happens on the field and the tactics and players. What we do here on this podcast is we find players that have causes that are really, really important to them, and we explore that. For example, Ferran Torres of Spain, his big cause is finding homes for stray dogs. And it's just really something that's really emotional. It's a really emotional podcast. We have players from Team USA that are fighting racism, that are becoming LGBTQ allies, talking about mental health, all of this sort of stuff that typically doesn't get talked about when we talk about, sports and athletics and athletes. But they're people too, and they have things that are important in their lives, their upbringings. Here you got Chris Richards over here. He's fighting racism in the world of soccer. So if that's something that interests you, you can find it wherever you find your podcast, guys.
Yep, that's awesome, Eric. Appreciate that. Make sure everyone downloads and subscribes to that podcast. You can follow Eric at Eric Alvarez TV on Twitter. I like the mention of Ferran Torres, who plays for the soon-to-be World Cup champions in Spain. Very good. Eric, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. All right, Drew, before we go, just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football and on the PGA Tour. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by getting the outcome between the Chargers and Chiefs in our Sunday Night 7 contest. All right, that was cool. Any closing soccer thoughts, Drew? We should talk more soccer on the show. There's a lot of edges to be found.
I got great news for you, Jay. World Cup starts on Sunday. Why not? This is the biggest worldwide sporting event, biggest, most liquid betting markets that we have every 4 years. So let's talk soccer.
Yeah, it's good. And also, like, look, as a general rule, liquidity equals lack of edge just because there's more being bet into a market, so it's harder to beat. At the same time, I'll go to my grave not understanding why France in the World Cup final were minus 200 to lift the cup against Croatia, when it just seemed all common reasoning said that should have been minus 400. And every smart person I spoke to was on board that the price was just completely wrong in the World Cup final. So I think there should be some opportunities. I'll close out by giving a bet that you should not make, and that is Australia to win their group at 20-1. Group T. Don't bet on that. France and Denmark are going to come out of that group. But all right, let's wrap there. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. Thanks to Eric Alvarez, Jay Croucher, and Drew Dinsick. You will see us soon.